Robert the Bruce is a name that many of us may know. He has been popularized in media as a man who fought for the freedom of his people no matter the cost. While I will not directly dispute these claims, there is much more history there than just that. Robert the Bruce was born in the year 1274 in the castle of Turnberry, where he likely grew up to speak both Gaelic and Scots Gaelic. He was also an educated man, so it would make sense that he would be able to speak both Latin and French. The Bruce family as a whole owned some land in England at the time, but not enough to make them a dominant political power. Robert the Bruce also spent much of his time in the court of Edward I with his father and served as his constable. After the death of Alexander III in 1286, there was a vacancy in the throne. Robert was not a clear candidate for the throne at the time, for his father and grandfather were still alive, and there were other clans having generally better claims to the throne. Edward I, King of England, was also invited to be the chairman for the successional debate, which ended up choosing Balliol as king. Edward invaded Scotland later, and the Bruces, along with other nobles, joined, likely in an effort to keep their lands, both in Scotland and England. The clan's choice likely forced Robert to side with Edward, even though he may have also wanted to protect his inheritance as Earl of Carrick and Lord of Annandale. Edward finished his invasion of Scotland and exiled John Balliol. This led to the Scottish Revolution. One of the biggest names of the Scottish Revolution was William Wallace. William Wallace managed to win many, many battles against the English, but he did so mostly by achieving surprise attacks on inexperienced soldiers. But at the Battle of Falkirk, he was not fighting recruits, but veterans that had fought with Edward I in France. William Wallace was also relying on Robert's help for the fight, but Robert fought on the side of the English in this fight. After this overwhelming defeat, Wallace relinquished his title as Guardian of the Scots and was forced to be on the run. Around this point, Robert realized that his path to the throne was not as easy as he thought, and it would require followers. Therefore, he invited John Comyn to the Greyfriars Church in Dumfries, where he attempted to force him to relieve himself of his claim to the crown and support Robert as king. After Comyn refused, Robert killed him and was therefore excommunicated from the church. Somehow he managed to convince, likely through force of arms, a priest to declare him king, which occurred on March 25th, 1306. His first military campaign resulted in 2 losses, once at Methven and another at Dalry. These losses forced him into hiding. During this period, both his wife and daughter were captured, and his brothers were killed. Once English forces had shifted back to France, however, he began another campaign. In this campaign, he waged successful war against England using tactics not dissimilar to those of William Wallace. He also managed to win one of the most famed battles in history, this of course being the Battle of Bannockburn. After the Battle of Bannockburn, the war dragged on for another 13 years until, when Edward III came to power, England finally made peace with Scotland. Robert then enjoyed a peaceful reign for about a year until he died just shy of 55 years of age in the year 1327. His body is currently buried in Dunfermline Abbey and his heart in Melrose Abbey. This has been the tale of Robert the Bruce. Thank you all for listening. And always remember, Scotland forever!